From a giant squid that terrorized a boat to the giant jellyfish that sunk a fishing trawler, here are 10 insane times sea monsters attacked a boat. Number 10. Great White Shark Attack. Keith Poe was in his fishing boat off the coast of Los Angeles when he was struck by a literal sea monster. In this case, the sea monster came in the form of a great white shark. According to Keith himself, the shark struck his vessel with such outstanding force that he first thought he had been hit by a sailboat. But the attack didn't stop with a single headbutt. According to the report in Men's Journal, Keith was attacked 7 different times during a small window of only 3 days. The attacks usually came at sunrise or sunset. The largest of these sharks measured about 18 feet, over 5 meters long. Yikes! As it turned out, the shark, or sharks, were riled up because a huge humpback whale known locally as Wally had washed ashore, drawing sharks into the area. The carcass was towed off the beach 3 times, but it kept drifting back. The sharks were so eager to sink their teeth into the dead whale and so frustrated they couldn't seem to reach it that they took out their anger on Keith's boat instead. Luckily, nobody was injured, though Keith's boat did suffer superficial damage from the vicious fish. Number 9. The Anne Alexander. The Anne Alexander was a whaling ship from Massachusetts and one of the only vessels confirmed to have actually been sunk by a real sea monster. This time, the sea monster was a sperm whale. It attacked Anne Alexander on August 20, 1851. At the time, the ship was under the command of Captain John DeBlois. The ship was about 3,000 miles or 4,800 kilometers from the coast of South America when they spotted a whale. The ship dropped 2 separate whaleboats, one with the first mate in command, the other with the captain. The first mate managed to harpoon a whale, but after he got the harpoon tethered, the whale turned and opened its jaws and destroyed the boat in a single bite. It was lucky that there was a second whaleboat as the captain rowed over and saved the crewmen from the shattered vessel. There were then 12 men stuck in a single boat and quite far from their ship. They managed to evade further attacks by the whale and get back to the Anne Alexander, at which point it was agreed they would continue to hunt the whale. After all, now it was personal. But things didn't end well for the whalers. They got a second harpoon into the giant beast's head, but it only made it even more upset, understandably so. The whale charged at the ship, smashing a hole in the hull of the Anne Alexander below the waterline. Within minutes, the boat began flooding. All 22 men aboard had to abandon ship and wait to be rescued while they watched the Anne Alexander sink and the whale swim away. Number 8. Giant Squid Attack. A French yacht was taking part in a round-the-world sailing competition when they were attacked by a giant squid in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Veteran yachtsman Oliver de Kersorson was at the helm of his yacht when the boat was unexpectedly struck by curious vibrations. Oliver sent a crewmate below deck to identify the issue, and that was when he saw something moving. He saw tentacles squirming around underwater. The squid had grabbed hold of the yacht and was trying to pull it beneath the surface. Nobody knew what the squid's motive was, but it was definitely trying to take down the ship. In response, Oliver brought the vessel to a complete stop. Once the ship stopped moving, the squid let go. Oliver and the crew looked behind them and saw the squid hovering there in the water, absolutely enormous, like some kind of biblical monster. Oliver said that he had been sailing for 40 years and never seen anything quite as horrifying. The boat did get away in the end, but it was pure luck. Eyewitnesses claimed the squid was at least 30 feet or 9 meters long, meaning it could easily have taken down the yacht if it had wanted to. Number 7. Kayaker Attack. At 6:30 in the morning, David Alexander took his kayak out to Shelter Cove to get a little rest and relaxation. David is a superintendent at Bellevue Union School District in Santa Rosa and really needed some time off. Kayaking seemed like the perfect escape. But what began as a day of escapism turned into a terrifying nightmare that David will never forget. The day was almost over and David was heading back to shore when suddenly he heard a thud and felt his boat lift up. At first he thought he had gotten stuck on a rock, but then he saw the grey flesh of the shark below him. The shark then exploded out of the water and sank its teeth into his kayak, literally ripping the front of the boat to shreds. The force of the bite was enough to throw David out of the boat. He landed in the water and was face to face with the deadly fish. It was an absolute miracle that the shark didn't eat him. He was literally close enough for the shark to reach out and give him a kiss, and yet the shark let go of the kayak, turned around and disappeared. David got back to land fine, but he would need a new kayak, and probably a new pair of underpants. What would you do if you were thrown from your kayak into the water with a shark? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit thumbs up and the subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 6. Death by swordfish. On August 19, 1886, Captain Franklin D. Langsford from Massachusetts sailed away from his schooner in a small dory and saw a swordfish. It was about 8 miles or 13 kilometres from Ipswich Bay. The captain chased down the swordfish, shot a harpoon at it, then left the harpoon line attached to a buoy. Franklin then decided to go back to the main vessel for dinner. About an hour later, he got back into his dory and went out to pick up his swordfish. He arrived at his buoy, grabbed hold of the line and began to pull himself towards the rather large fish. He was about to lance the swordfish when it suddenly turned, rushed underneath his boat and thrust its nose up at the bottom of the wooden dory and impaled the captain straight through his body. In the end, the swordfish actually got stuck with its nose piercing the vessel and the captain's boat. The captain's schooner eventually came along and he was helped on board by his crew. The dory and the giant swordfish had to be hoisted into the schooner together. The fish was eventually killed and weighed over 300 pounds or 130 kilos. The captain survived for only 3 days before dying from his injuries. Number 5. Sunk by a giant jellyfish. The Nomura's jellyfish is one of the most daunting creatures of the deep. It's not traditionally scary like a shark or a squid, but it is an authentic danger that can not only kill a lonely swimmer, but also an entire ship full of fishermen. Something like this actually happened in Japan when an enormous jellyfish sank a fishing trawler. According to Fox News, the boat capsized just off the coast of Japan as its crew tried to haul in a net filled with Nomura's jellyfish. Nobody knows why, but an army of these gelatinous giants gathered between the Japanese coastline and the Korean peninsula, and fishermen began accidentally reeling in nets full of them. This is bad news because the Nomura's jellyfish can grow to be over 6 feet or 1.8 meters in diameter. They can also grow to be up to 400 pounds, over 180 kilos. In any case, there were way too many jellyfish in the net. As the crew tried to haul them in, they were tossed into the sea. The immense weight of the jellies tipped the boat over and sank it, and the 3 fishermen probably would have died if not for another trawler that happened to be in the area that came to their rescue. The invasion of Nomura's jellyfish was so severe that some salmon boats stopped going out into the ocean, and many fishermen ended up losing up to 80% of their income. It was even reported that nuclear plants in the area kept getting jellyfish sucked up into their pumps, causing technical issues. Why these jellies decided to invade this area is still a mystery. Number 4. Crushed by a whale. A kayaker survived the encounter of a lifetime after a humpback whale bigger than 2 buses put together did a belly flop on top of his head. The British tourist was a 35-year-old man visiting Monterey Bay in the San Francisco area. This is a hotspot for checking out whales and going on kayak tours. He opted for the kayak tour and went out not really expecting to see too much. What he got instead was a close encounter with a whale over 33 tons. That's 30,000 kilograms, which jumped out of the water in front of his kayak and then crashed down sideways onto him. He was sucked into the water by the preposterous force created by the giant humpback whale. He was then tossed around like a rag doll in a river before eventually orientating himself and getting back to the surface. Amazingly, he didn't suffer any serious injuries. According to the New York Post, the kayaker said himself in a later interview that the beast was so huge it literally blocked out the sun when it leapt out of the water. He could see water dripping off the grooves of its body and then all of a sudden, blackness. One thing he claimed to remember after the incident is that the whale smelled absolutely horrifying, giving a whole new meaning to the term fish breath. Number 3. German Uboat Attack. In World War I, a German submarine was allegedly attacked by an unidentified sea monster. This happened in the Irish Sea in 1918 when 2 German U-boats were defeated and sunk by British patrol ships. The story has been circulating online for quite a long time. So far as the tale goes, the UB3 class submarine was damaged by a sea creature seen by every one of the crew, all of whom described the mysterious thing as looking like a giant mutated crocodile. The creature caused so much damage that the submarine was forced to the surface, at which point the British forces took it out. To this day, nobody has been able to put forth a logical theory as to what could possibly have ravaged a German submarine during the war. Some believe it never happened. Marine archaeologist Innes McCartney claims that there was probably never a giant sea monster at all, and that the tale became popular in the 1930s when stories of sea monsters started circling the globe. And to make matters worse for the story, the submarine was found just a couple of years ago off the coast of Scotland. After taking composite images using sonar scans, there appeared to be no claw or teeth marks from any kind of monster. Number 2. Killer whale attack. Victor Littlefield was out with his teenage son and 2 of his son's friends having a relaxing afternoon on his 33-foot or 10-metre aluminium boat. It was just another lazy Sunday. But then, out of nowhere, the boat lurched violently. Victor's first thought was that they were under siege by a deadly great white shark, though that was probably because he had just watched Jaws the previous day. There was no shark attacking his boat. Instead, it was an even more dangerous killer whale. The killer whale, also known as an orca whale, smashed into his boat several times before it grabbed hold of his anchor and gave it a tug, yanking Victor's boat around like a toy in a bathtub. The whale then swam at the boat and slapped it with its tail. All signs pointed to a serious attack, and this was even more dangerous because there were 3 young teens on board. In the end, the entire incident lasted just a couple of minutes. The whale did eventually swim away with the line from the ship's anchor, which it had somehow ripped off during its furious attack. Luckily, nobody was harmed. To this day, Victor has no idea why the orca attacked him. Number 1. Otter Escape. In a shocking turn of events, a clever otter recently escaped certain death in Alaska's Halibut Cove Lagoon after using John Dornella's boat as salvation. John had been watching the horrifying struggle, not knowing what to do. The orca was clearly teasing the otter, having a bit of fun before it finally got bored and decided to tear it apart. But the otter proved just a little too wily for the sadistic whale. Just at the last second, the otter made an evasive maneuver, scrambled out of the water and climbed onto John's boat. The panicked little critter then sat next to the engine while John watched the whale splash around, clearly having a temper tantrum because its dinner had just got away. John then let the otter hang out on his boat until the coast was clear. The otter didn't say thank you when it left, but it didn't really need to. John was fairly certain the animal was thankful to still be alive. Thanks for watching. Have you ever seen a sea monster attack a boat? If so, tell me all about it in the comments. And if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button before you leave. See you next time.